There's nothing wrong with, having God in the household if you believe in him. There's nothing wrong with that. But racists believe in God as well.
I'll say my heart definitely goes out to the children, because this is a world where, they're going to have to see it on social media at some point.
There are people who believe it is more harmful to be called a racist than it is to say or do the racist thing.
I think this overall situation, yes, it is very sad, but it also paints a clear picture of where we are as a country.
All right, we are back. Welcome back to the Porch Light Theory, episode 11. We're in the double digits now. This is the Porch Light Theory, where we have unfiltered conversations, but sometimes it is necessary. I'm Tristan, and the coolest brother, Nick, is in the room with me right now. Nick, what's going on, bro? How you doing?
Big chillin'. How you doing, my brother?
It's been an interesting, to answer your question, I'm doing all right, but it's been an interesting, 4 or 5 days, man. Let's go ahead and address the elephant in the freaking virtual room. This whole Charlie Kirk mess is crazy. I was working from home when the news dropped. Where were you when it happened, and what was going through your mind, man?
I was just at work, and then just, of course, get the notifications. First, it was like, goodness, I hope he's all right, because you can have a difference in opinion, but by no means does that mean we wish violence or any ill will on you like that. Like, that's just wow. And then once you saw the video, that just,
Video was crazy.
Yeah, I'll say my heart definitely goes out to the children, because this is a world where, they're going to have to see it on social media at some point. And I can't dislike someone enough to want their kids to have to see that. Like, that's tough.
Yeah. I remember seeing the breaking news, headline, because I took a break, social media break, while I was working from home. And I'm scrolling, and I see live coverage, ABC News, Charlie Kirk has been shot. Like, no freaking way. Ain't no way. I'm going through articles, I'm reading all the headlines, and then one video pops up, and it's the one from the distance. And you hear the pop, and you see him lean back, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is real. And I think sobering is the right word to describe the feeling when I saw the close-up version of how gory the situation was. And no one should have to go through anything like that. I can only imagine how his family and the people who were there to see him, whether they were for or against him, I can only imagine what that was like, seeing that that traumatic event just happen in real time. One thing I feel like it's important to talk about regarding this Charlie Kirk situation. I'm not celebrating that man's death. By no means am I celebrating it. No, not at all. But I'm not mourning his death either. And I think it's important to look at the fruit that this specific tree has been bearing for years. Years that this fruit has been made out and given to the public. I was talking to my therapist about it this past weekend. Charlie Kirk, I can say, is a Christian white nationalist, and he entertained white supremacy, and he entertained conspiracy theories. He entertained racism. That man's speech and rhetoric was harmful. And to see people talk about his Christian values and such, his speech and rhetoric does not reciprocate, nor does it reflect the actions and the goodness that our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ would have done. Not at all.
I agree.
I'm not laughing at the short answer.
No, I'm not trying, nigga. I'm not trying to get canceled. Fuck you mean?
Yeah,
I seen how they've been doing people.
You
I ain't got much to say.
You don't mind if I pull up this article about JD Vance?
Go ahead.
So here's this article. Vice President J.D. Vance, he hosted the Charlie Kirk show, paying tribute to him. He hosted the show for 2 hours. The part that has me twisted right here. Vance says political violence is not a both sides problem. Quote, in his closing comments, Vance lambasted what he described as the far left movement, referencing the assassination attempts against Trump's life last year and the shooting of the House Majority Leader Steve Scalise in 2017. But he omitted more recent acts of violence targeting Democrats, such as the June attack in Minnesota that killed a Democratic state lawmaker and her spouse and left another Democratic lawmaker wounded. This is not a both sides problem. If both sides have a problem, one side has a much bigger and malignant problem. And that is the truth we must be told, he said. Vance said the administration intended to, quote, go after the NGO network that foments, facilitates, and engages in violence, though he did not detail what shape those plans might take. Taking questions from Vance, Miller said the government planned to target what he said were actual organized cells that carry out and facilitate the violence, citing people behind doxing campaigns and speech intended to trigger or incite violence. With God as my witness, we are going to use every resource we have at the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, throughout this government to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy these networks and make America safe again for the American people, he said. And as he closed out the episode, Vance told the audience that the best way to pay tribute to Kirk will be to follow his example, but the way to honor him is to shine the light of truth like a torch in the very darkest place. Go do it. Now, throughout the show, Vance also spoke of his friendship with Kirk and credited him with helping push for Trump to select him as his vice president. J.D. Vance did say during the show that he's basically saying, hey, to folks who are celebrating his death, pretty much dox him, call their employer. And I've never seen, this is, we are definitely living in unprecedented times. I've never seen a vice president or an elected official all the way up to a federal level in the White House. I've never seen a White House official call for its civilians to dox other civilians, in their words, for having a difference of opinion. And I think that's that will be the opposite of what Charlie Kirk, would have wanted. I don't know, because the man stretched freedom of speech. From my perspective, he stretched it so far, but used it for the wrong reasons.
I know what's right for some is not right for all, so they're allowed to do things in ways that maybe not everyone can, but that comes with certain things. So God bless their souls.
One thing that is bothering me is the reaction that I've seen on social media. It's how people have been focusing on the fact that he is a Christian man and that he wants to bring God into the family and he wants to bring wholesomeness into every household. And I think that's fine and dandy. If you're a religious man, if you're a Christian like me or Nick, then that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with, having God in the household if you believe in him. There's nothing wrong with that. But racists believed in God as well. And like I said earlier, his words did not reciprocate, nor did it reflect what God would actually do. He tried to racialize the Ukrainian woman that was killed in North Carolina. He entertained the Great Replacement theory. I went through his social media before we started recording. This man tweeted, Islam is the sword the left is using to slit the throats of America. Who says that? That's not a reflection of God, in my opinion. In my opinion, that's not a reflection of God. And now that we're talking about this, this person, it just feels like we're treading through murky waters right now. Again, I do want to reiterate, we're not condoning the violence at all, nor are we celebrating this man's death. But it is imperative to at least acknowledge the words that came out from this man and how his words were harmful to marginalized communities. There's no there's no doubt about that. Here's a good example, bro. This is something I saw on social media because people want to say, "Oh, you're upset at him for having a difference of opinion." I can say, out of all the Autobots in the Transformers, Optimus Prime is a better Autobot than Bumblebee. That's a difference of opinion. You know what I'm saying? Or I think if I was a city councilman or if I was the mayor, then we should cut back on spending XYZ so that way we can produce ABC. And if you have a different way of going about that, that's a difference of opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But to say something on the lines of black women didn't earn their spot, thus taking an opportunity away from a white man, now you're attacking me. Like, now you're attacking my people. Now you're attacking someone based off race. And I have a problem with that. That's not a difference of opinion. But at that point, that type of rhetoric turns into beliefs. And that type of belief, what will that do to people like you and me? We've seen it with legislation. We've seen it with policing. We've seen it throughout history about how those type of opinions impact people like you and me.
Yeah. I would say this overall situation has at least revealed more of the conversations that I feel the country, has been having, but it's still kind of dancing around it. And it's just with how we engage with each other. And just based on getting on social media or something like that and seeing just the reactions between, those that would be considered, I guess, sympathizers, and then those that, of course, either hold disdain or indifference. Just seeing the reactions to who decides to declare how they feel publicly. And I think that in itself, and just seeing all the reactions, revealed a lot more about where we are as a country.
The crazy thing is about where we are in this country, it's the aftermath that has me worried, man. That assassination did not do any of us good. That's why I'm not celebrating it. Like, what good does killing that man do for us? What does that do for me?
Nothing at all.
It does nothing for me. It does nothing. But what it did do is shed a light on people like Nick Fuentes and the Groyper wars and whatnot. Have you heard of that?
Oh, I have, but also it sheds a light on where we are as a country. Like, are we really a peaceful, safe country right now?
There was a mass shooting that happened on the same day of his assassination. No one should have to live in fear like that, man.
Like, I think this overall situation, yes, it is very sad, but it also paints a clear picture of where we are as a country. Because like you said, we can have a difference of opinion, but by no means is my life made better by that man being shot. Like,
True.
I feel like if we wanted to create the change and dynamics that we wanted to, it's best to have those players out there instead of trying to eliminate them. Like, because then they become this symbol that they can use and say, look what they're trying to do against us.
Mm-hmm. And they're already doing it. The Trump administration is saying that this is this is all coming from the left. We both know that's not true. It's not true at all. Which is why I'm, talking about this Nick Fuentes character and this Groyper movement or Groyper wars. You don't mind if I pull up this article as well?
Go ahead.
So this is the Groyper movement. Social media users have also questioned whether early claims by officials that the suspect apprehended late Thursday was tied to left-wing extremism were premature, pointing instead to possible links to the far right. As of Friday afternoon, it remained unclear what the motive was in Kirk's shooting or the political ideology of the alleged gunman. Now, Robinson's family, that's the 22-year-old shooter from Utah, his family say he become, quote, more political in recent years, according to police. And the markings on the bullet casing suggest that the subject was steeped in meme culture and made references to online taunts and anti-fascist messages. This is where it gets interesting. So what is the Groyper Army? The Groyper Army is a far-right online-based movement organized around white nationalist and America First advocate Nick Fuentes. And according to the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, the group consists of alt-right, white nationalist, and Christian nationalist activists who hold anti-Semitic, racist, and homophobic views, often cloaked in the rhetoric about traditional values and family. And their mascot is a cartoon frog called Groyper, a variant of the Pepe meme used widely among extremist groups. And the term Groyper began circulating widely in 2019 during a public feud inside the conservative movement. So that year, followers of Nick Fuentes disputed the college events hosted by Charlie Kirk and his group, Turning Point USA, accusing Kirk of watering down Donald Trump's message. And the clash, later referred to as the Groyper Wars, drew national attention for its confrontational tactics and for pushing white nationalist ideas into more mainstream conservative circles. Kirk responded by calling the Groypers extremists. He defended his approach to conservatism as inclusive, saying the movement should be open to all people of all backgrounds and reject racism and homophobia. I'm going to stop the screen right here, because that whole rabbit hole about Groypers and Nick Fuentes, and mind you, I said earlier that I knew of him. I just didn't think how deep and influential that this person was or person is. So from the looks of it, if Charlie Kirk is on the right, Nick Fuentes is so far right that it makes Charlie Kirk look like a regular right-wing person. So if you thought all the words and all the hurtful and harmful things that Kirk has said, look what Fuentes is saying. And he don't give a damn. And that dude, his influence is scary. Really scary. The Overton window has shifted.
I would agree. Because, yeah, it's definitely a difficult space to have to navigate within their own spaces, but it's a tough battle, I would say, but that's what they choose to interact with and want to be around.
Where do we go from here, man? From your perspective, what can we do? Where do we go from here? What's next?
Honestly, I don't know, and that's what's the scary thing. It's unprecedented territory where we've never been this close to being so outside from the norm of what we're used to that, everything could just turn around and be great tomorrow, or it could just all completely go to put. It's just that much of a variance right now.
There are flames being fanned at, and it's unnecessary, and it doesn't have to be.
Because, like you said, we just don't know what's going to happen next. No one expected this to happen. Like I said, you can have disagreements or anything. I think that Kirk was definitely on a high rise as well.
He was at his peak.
Yeah, but by no means do I think that he had gotten to a point to where he would ever do anything to deserve what happened to him. And I keep reiterating that because at the end of the day, you cannot agree with someone, but we don't want to set the example that this is the only way we can understand how to get a point across.
I think I might just go ahead and say it, bro, if you'll allow it. Um, this country has a white nationalist issue, and if we don't nip this in the bud, this issue is going to metastasize and turn into something worse.
I think we have I think it's more of the anti-intellectual movement and how that's exacerbated the division we have within the country just because you can hear it in some of the rhetoric, especially like this past weekend where the president is like, smart people don't like me.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's a bigger focus on the anti-intellectual side of if you keep people within that realm of not having the need to understand or thirst for knowledge and true understanding, I think that you create a heavy enough divide within the country without having to really do any drastic work.
Solutions. I think at the very least, one thing we can do is just offer solutions.
What would you consider a solution?
When something is racist, homophobic, transphobic, whatever the situation may be,
When it is,
like
it
call it
is what
out
it
for
is.
yeah, call it out for what it is, and let's not dance around this whole spiel about um having a difference of opinions, no matter how cruel or abhorrent it is, because there are people who believe it is more harmful to be called a racist than it is to say or do the racist thing.
But people don't want to have real conversations, though. Is that what it boils down to? People just aren't trying to have conversations?
I think that's what it boils down to. Our white brothers and sisters going to have a similar conversation about about young white men on the internet absorbing this hateful content. Here's a quote from Larry Favors. She's a lawyer and an activist, and I think this is a good um, this is a word. If you don't understand white supremacy, what it is and how it operates, then everything that you think you know and understand will only confuse you. Nick Fuentes and his followers, they're pretty much saying that the Trump administration and people on the right they're not far right enough. And you have certain people who are on the right just basically taking advantage of a kleptocracy. They're making millions. You have a president who's doing side hustles. He's moonlighting, cologne, shoes, phone, Bibles, all that stuff,
I somewhat agree because it's like, I think that's a sect of it, but I think the overall problem has always just been the idea of how we're stuck in this capitalistic loop that perpetuates it all. So
Mm-hmm.
we're not in an economics or societal system that promotes that type of growth and understanding just because it's not beneficial, because it requires a certain level of honesty with yourself
Mm.
and realizing that there are differences between the haves and the have-nots, and acknowledging what side you lie on and how you add to either those that have having what they do and those that don't have it, how you're benefiting takes away from them. So I think it's a lot more than that, because to a certain extent it does take a level of ignorance to just fake the funk this whole time, because if you look at some of the reactions from the events of this past week, you will see where people are like, my goodness, I would have never thought that that person thought this way.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look and think like, hey, that person's entire life is held up by the idea of capitalism and being able to succeed within that system. Like, they're not trying to give up their, $500,000 home, cushy life, and wife and kids having everything on easy street. They're not trying to give that up. So yeah, they're just going to play dumb and perpetuate a system that allows them to still live comfortably. But we also got to be honest, at the end of the day, we no longer live in a system where they will allow an individual to create the change that we feel that is necessary. So a lot of people don't feel the need to go outside of that cycle that at least allows you to live comfortable if you're going to be stuck in it. If you're going to be stuck in it, it's like if I know that nothing's going to change, I might as well do whatever it takes to at least be comfortable. And that's the sad part.
Yeah, I just think we need to start by just having that honest conversation. Is there anything from your perspective that what we can do?
Vote, educate ourselves. Even if you're not in full agreement with the person next to you, just at least be willing to engage and have an honest conversation and be very aware of who and where we are currently. I do believe that we like to think that to a certain extent, the progress that has been made is sufficient. And by no means do I think it is, for the simple fact that there's so many factors that are out of our control that I think it requires a lot more unity and also a lot more, which is difficult to do in this type of economy and things of that nature, but
Nuance.
more, yeah, it takes a lot of nuance that requires the levels of education, but not just that, but also being put in certain positions to be able to administer, be the decision makers in certain rooms and things like that. It takes getting to that point. And I think we are still getting there at that point.
Here's something that just popped up in my mind. It's easier to just give up and just let it just happen. It's easier. It reminds me of what you said a couple episodes ago, how like anger opens up your wallet. It's easier to explore the feeling of anger. But the hard part is applying yourself to be empathetic, to have sympathy towards others, to care for one another.
Yeah, let's let that be the takeaway for today. It's a point to where our base emotions should be those that are positive, those that are seeking to do things that unify us instead of create further division, just because I think that we're getting to a very divided point in this country, and it's not okay for some fact that even if I don't know every single person I see on the way to work, I don't wish them ill will. Wow, I get cut off in traffic once or twice. Okay, whatever. Learn to drive better. But I think there's I think we have more of a emotional intelligence problem in America than anything else. Because why does you being angry force you to the point to where you're willing to act upon it, to take someone's life, to hurt someone, to harm someone? But not even just that, but force you to vote to hurt others, to put people in positions to where they no longer have autonomy over their bodies and things of that nature. Like, can't remember who said it, but I think they said that anyone that's like a single purpose voter, or was it like a single reason voter, like they're some of the most single issue voters, some of the most dangerous voters you can have, just because you get that someone's opinion on an issue can be swayed so easily through emotions and invoking stuff like that. And I think that's where our biggest issue is that the anti-intellectual movement also attacks people's emotional intelligence, and it doesn't allow them to develop into the type of adults and human beings that are making decisions on a day-to-day basis that affect others. It doesn't allow them to act with empathy, nor does it allow them to fully assess or even want to put aside their own, which I know is hard to do. It's hard to do in a time when literally every penny and every dollar counts. So it's hard to say, well, I'm going to forego the chance to really make more money for the sake of others around me. That is difficult to do.
Yeah.
But it's part of what makes us good.
By all means, I'm not trying to like tell you to go out and have that type of conversation with someone who purposefully closes their ears and eyes to everything that's happening around them. But try and have that tough conversation, plant the seeds, your objective as of now, I hope listeners and viewers, is to not change a person's mind right then and there, but plant the seeds of change that you would like to see, so that way we can all strive to live in a country that is fair and equal for all of us.
Be the change that you want to see in others.
It reminds me of
Simple as
another.
that.
Yeah, it reminds me of another quote that I would like to drop for y'all. A rising tide lifts all boats. A rising tide lifts all boats. So if you think this doesn't impact you in any kind of way, you're wrong. Trust me. Shout out to the first 107. Shout out to the first 107 people who follow us on TikTok.
What?
107 people follow us on TikTok. That is so cool.
That's wild.
That is wild that y'all think, oh, I want to hear from more of them. That is super cool that you want to hear from us. So shout out to y'all. Shout out to the first 107 people. And I hope to see.
We definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate it. I hope to see 107 more, tune in and listen to us. Shout out to Standby.
Dude.
Shout out to the people who have been streaming our podcast via Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's definitely appreciated. I mean, one of our top episodes is the Relax Guy. It's just an agenda episode. So that's one of our most streamed ones. So a lot of people have been searching our content via Spotify. So that's super cool, bro.
We appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, like words cannot express. Shout out to all the
No, it truly does mean a lot.
I mean, for some odd reason, we have listeners in Ireland, Mexico, Denmark, and South Africa.
Yo.
Hi. How did you come across us? Hello. How did you come across this podcast and what? but appreciate it for sticking around, listening to us. Thank you. Shout out to that 1% in Russia that's listening to us. Why? But okay. But shout out to the folks in South Africa. Another thing, bro. The majority of our listeners on Spotify are women. So shout out to the ladies. And
shout out to y'all. They know we're speaking truth sometimes, but we're just entertaining.
Yeah, we're entertaining and ignorant sometimes. But most important, speaking of ladies, as always, shout out to the ladies of the Yap Me Baby podcast, where they talk about the quiet things out loud. So if you enjoy the Porch Light Theory, then you will most definitely enjoy Kanisha and Leandra on the Yap Me Baby podcast. Give them a listen, give them a chance, and tell them that the Porch Light Theory sent you. So thank you so much for just taking the time to listen to the Porch Light Theory, episode 11. Episode 12 is on the way. Thank you so much. We'll hear from you next week. Peace out.
Thank you, guys. You have a good night.